made a mess. Hello everyone, how are we doing? First up, I have to apologise for the length of time it is since I spoke to you, and thank you to all the people who reached out on Instagram and through the comments on YouTube just to check that I was alright and hadn't sunk. We haven't. I have just been incredibly busy with my day job, and the weather's also been really bad here. The start to the season has not been great. Unlike today, as you can see, it's absolutely delightful. That has given us an interesting perspective, because we have spent some time on the boat in the rain, which has added to the project list. And projects is what I wanted to talk to you about today. Projects. The project list just got a little bit longer with all this weather. The rain very kindly showed up a leak or two. So we're going to have to fix those. That's going to involve rebedding all of the deck hardware, rebedding the stanchions, resealing all of the screws in the tow rail, and all of that good stuff. All got to be done, all important stuff. Wasn't expecting to do it. The projects that I wanted to do, which is actually what we're going to start today, all related to mainsail handling. So those of you who know me and who have been following the channel for a while will know that 90% of the time I sail by myself, and the sail handling that we currently have on this boat is really not geared up for that. So those are the things that we wanted to change. Most importantly, reefing. If we look at the gooseneck of my boom, we will notice there are no reefing hooks on there. So how do we even go about putting a reef in as it currently stands? I would have to ease the main halyard, I would have to tighten up the leech kringle on the outboard end of the boom, then I'd have to come forward to the mast, leaving the cockpit, which isn't ideal, and take this funky little arrangement here and tie that through the luff kringle and then tighten it down onto this cleat right here. Now, none of this is ideal because I'm now out of the cockpit. I then have to go back to the cockpit, tighten up the main halyard, and tighten everything back, and that just didn't work. So what I wanted to do was to fit single line reefing. Now, in order to fit single line reefing, I've got to run all of my lines back aft, and as you can see here, I've got a deck organizer with two shivs, and then on the other side I got absolutely nothing. Now if we look at the cabin top, I've got this ratty old line here which controls the centerboard. Well, that needs to be changed. I've got one cabin top winch, and then I've got 3 of the first clutches ever made or produced in the history of the world. And so those things are about as much use as a chocolate teapot. And over on this side, we got nothing. So that's no good. Now the other big problem with single line reefing on a bigger boat is friction. And this is a discussion topic that I found on forums everywhere, and you know, everyone's got an opinion on this. The question is how to get the reefing lines rigged so that we don't get any friction, so that we can adjust them from the inboard and the outboard end from the cockpit, and so that we can reef both the luff and the leech kringles down to put a proper slab reef into the sail without reefing the cockpit. The best way to do this is to buy a Selden boom, where the problem with those is they cost about $2,000, and I just don't have the money to do that. So we're not going to do that, or we're going to try to avoid it. We're going to try something else first. Either which way, if we do get the new boom or we don't, we still have to run all of the lines aft. And as you can see, we don't have the hardware suitable for doing that. So there are a couple of other little comedy things that need to be sorted out. This line coming out of the side of the boom here that runs all the way down to this block on the underside of the mast by the main sheet, and then back up again to this cleat on the side of the boom. This is the outhaul, and as you can see, it terminates right here, so we can't adjust that from the cockpit. Not the end of the world. This blue line here on this cleat underneath, that is the termination point for the topping lift, and again, it terminates at the mast. In my opinion, being able to adjust the topping lift from the cockpit is one of the keys to having a single line reefing system that works well, because that really helps to reduce the friction. So we need to run that aft as well. as you can see, we have a lot of stuff that we've got to run aft. We've got to have the main halyard, we have to have the topping lift, we have to have the outhaul. I also want to have the van control lines running aft, and then we're going to have 2 reef points. Cunningham would be nice, but maybe we'll add that in later. The problem is we don't have the deck hardware to do that, and we also are not at this point sure whether our single line reefing idea is going to work. Either which way, if we end up buying a new boom, we still have to run everything aft, so we still have to fit new deck hardware. Now, to run everything aft, we have got these quite fancy looking little block type things, which have blocks mounted to them, 4 per side. Those are going to lead to a deck organizer, and the deck organizer is going to turn the lines back to some nice, fancy, shiny and new clutches, not the world's first clutch ever invented, and we're going to do that on both sides of the coach roof. On one side we already have a winch, but secondhand on eBay, gotta love it, I picked up this bad boy incredibly cheap, and so we're going to add that to the port side coach house roof. So we're going to have this arrangement on both sides of the coach roof. That will give me the ability to be able to run 8 control lines, and I also need 1 clutch for the centerboard control line, which we're going to replace 2. So this means drilling some holes in a perfectly good boat. Now, one of the problems about mounting deck hardware is the fact that we have this beautiful vinyl headliner with teak trim that's really lovely, and I'm kind of loath to take it down because it's one of those things where you start a project and you suddenly discover 16 others, but that's what's going to happen. And this is what the underside of my coach house roof looks like. And this is what we're about to start punching holes in. And this is how all my hardware, my deck hardware, is currently fixed on. So it's good that we're doing this, because that is not how you do it. This is what happens when you spend your morning at sailing school. Hey Bear. Somebody is a little wiped out and is not much use on the project side of things today. But that's okay. She did very well at sailing school. So the next thing we have to figure out is where to position all of this stuff. Now, I know from measuring on the underside that where this hole comes out on the inside, I've got 6 inches between here and the bulkhead, which the compression post kind of runs into and the mast sort of sits on, and I don't really want to be putting this block straddling the bulkhead. I've taken a little advice from some other people, and I think putting this block right here is not going to be an issue, because I have 2 lines that are going to come down the mast. They're going to be the reef points. They're going to come down into the blocks and then come back. These 2 guys here are going to take care of probably lines that are going to be terminating from the underside of the boom up here, and that seems like it's going to line up pretty well. So I think we're going to have one on this side and one on the other side. The only problem with the one on the other side, of course, is I've got to get rid of this block right here to fit it. So the procrastination that's currently going on is ridiculous. I'm 99% sure that that thing's in the right place, and I'm I'm 99% sure that that drill bit is the right size. And I'm also 99% sure that I really don't want to drill a hole in my boat. But I guess at some point you just have to bite the bullet, right? So here's what's causing the procrastination. This area here has been epoxied and glassed and whatever else. And this is where I want to have one of those blocks at the foot of the mast. And I don't know what this is, but I want to make sure that my hardware doesn't protrude past this because I don't want lumps in the headliner. And I don't really know what this is. So I mean, ultimately, I'm assuming it's not structural. It's below the deck. There's deck above this. I don't really know what it is. I think I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and go for it. Okay, so in an effort to find out what's going on with that glassed stuff, I took off the old turning block here at the base of the mast to see what's going on. I think that the glass on the inside is just holding in either a backing plate or a washer or something like that. So let's see if we can find out what's going on. To find out what's going on, we're just going to push all the way down through and see what happens. Okay, so pushing the drill bit all the way down revealed a hole. That goes all the way out there. There is some sort of metal in there. I can't see if it's a washer or a backing plate or what it is, but I think if we just chip that away, whatever it is, it's not structural. So I think we can just carry on with our mounting. And there's the culprit that fell out on poor little Christina's head. She wasn't very happy about it, but there we go. It wasn't my fault. I didn't know that was going to happen. This is great news because it wasn't structural, it was just glassed in over the backing plate of that block, so I can now pop that out and put my new backing plate in there once I've carried on chipping away at all that epoxy. And actually it's nice to see that some of the hardware in this boat had a backing plate, and there's a whole heap of mess and detritus. I'll clean that up in a minute. And there is the offending little tow rag. But what this means is now I have room for my new backing plates and my new hardware. I'm very excited. I feel I've achieved something today. So our friends have showed up now for dinner, and that's about the end of the projects for today. But thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time, and we'll fill you in on how it goes. Ta-da. Thanks so much for watching. Your comments are always welcome. If you like the videos, give us a thumbs up. If you don't, give us a thumbs down. But you've got to tell us why in the comments. Join us next time when we're going to punch some holes in our dear old boat. So we'll see you then. Ta-da!